And we're going to be going over today how to do the financial forecast and the revenue forecast. So let's just get started. If you had a chance to download the files in the group page, that'd be great. So that basically you can follow along. But let's see what we got. All right, so we just see my screen. All right, so typically we are going to start from a blank slate. Let me hide this menu up here. Let's see if that worked. Video panel. Okay, here we go. That's always the fun part. All right, so typically this is your forecast. And let's see if I can move this too, or just close this. All right, so this is your financial forecast typically. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have something similar to this. Now, ideally, your revenue items are gonna be everything that you pretty much offer that brings in some type of dollar. But we're gonna start on this part last, because really what we wanna do is get the expenses down first. So typically, if you've been in business for a year, or if you have not been in business for a year, you can still use this form to project out what your expenses are. So let's just say that you haven't been in business for a year. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna figure out what your typical payroll, or what your movers that you're gonna have, what you're typically gonna be paying them. And then, ideally start to summarize that expense. It is a longer drawn out process. I can always show, we do have a video on how to determine your moving rates. But let's just go into some general expenses. So your general expenses, ideally, again, you want to get this from your P&L statement. It'd be a lot easier. But if you don't have this information, typically you're going to go off of benchmarks. So typically you want your marketing to be no more than 10%, but you could go as low as 7%. That's going to be your range. So figuring out where your range is just going to be up to you on whether you want to be at 7, 8, 9, or 10, but you don't want to exceed more than that. So for this example here, we're gonna start off with 10%. Now this is going to be 10% of your revenue. Now, payroll services, again, if you are a legitimate company, you're dealing with payroll. So how much are they charging you for just processing fees? And this is what we want to make sure we can calculate from a monthly standpoint. So let's just say that they're charging you $100 each time you process payroll. So if you're doing payroll 4 times a week, this number is going to be about $400. Now, your credit card fee. So whatever credit card fee you're taking from your merchant service, you want to be able to factor that in here because, hey, that's still an expense, regardless if you're passing it through to a customer or not. So we'll keep that at some of these markers here we don't have to touch because they're going to auto-populate. But if this was your chart, you can change this chart. Right now it's set for 0.25, if you can see up here. So you can change this amount or this percentage amount based on whatever your credit card merchant is going to charge you. Now, bank fees. We're going to have, so there's going to be bank fees or so like that you may acquire or may not acquire. It just depends on you. I know these big banks nowadays want to charge you for every little thing. So you may want to have how would you call it? A precaution in there. Say, hey, you know what? If we took maybe $50 in bank fees a month, this is all projected. Some of these things can go down, but you just want to have that buffer in there. So in case it does happen, you already planned for it. So we're going to say $50. Now, your booking commission. So So the booking commissions, let me see. Before Dun, 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 dun. This could be how much you're paying, probably you're going to project how much you're probably paying in commissions for the year. Your fuel expense, hey, if you got a fuel card company, what type of fuel expense are you paying, or whatever the case is, over the course of the year, or I'm sorry, over the course of the month. So I like to think that if you have a P&L statement, you can add up all of your fuel expenses that you had in the last 12 months. But if you're new, you just got a fuel card company, you could project how much you plan to spend in fuel on your trucks, and project a little higher than normal. So if you fall short, then great, because again, it's an expense. So if you can save money, that's what we want to do. So I project that it's going to be about 7% ideally. Now tolls, if you're going to ever run into tolls, if you don't ever run into tolls, hey, put 0. Truck insurance, project how much it may cost you to have truck insurance on the road. Let me just put $1 just to have a number. What your truck insurance may be for the year. Now, if you pay your truck insurance all in one shot instead of spreading it across the year, hey, okay, maybe my truck insurance was $20,000. You can now do it that way. And I actually want to change all of this into dollar amounts, because it's gonna drive me crazy. Let's see. Okay, and let me go down. Oops. All right, so I'm gonna just currency. All right. Time, because sometimes it doesn't catch. And currency again. All right, sweet. All right. So now, again, if you're going to spread the cost over the year, because hey, your truck insurance is $100,000, you want to spread it across the year, you can always do that as well. So typically, again, you want to make sure you have a layout of whatever your expenses could be. Do research, figure out what your general liability insurance could be, claim service company, rent, truck insurance. I'm sorry, truck maintenance. The truck maintenance, again, you're going to probably have to project. Truck payments, if you have 2 trucks, 1 truck, whatever, if you don't have any truck payments, these line items are interchangeable based on whatever expense line items you have. So these, again, this chart is just an example of what expenses you may or could run into. So claims, customer satisfaction, copy lease, copier maintenance, and the list goes on. But this is going to be a general expenses. So let's just put, let me see. Let's see, who else is. All right. So again, if you have your chart, let's just say that tolls is $50. Truck insurance is going to be $100,000. So we're gonna break 100,000 up by 12. So, or let's just say 70,000. Some people's insurance is that high. So let's see. 70,000 divided by 12. Let's see what we got. So we got $5,833.33. And now we're going to spread that across the board. So now we come very close to where that number is supposed to be or so. So we could probably add somewhere in here, give this guy a 4 at the end of the year. All right, cool. So we're a little over, but that's okay. Then we basically are going to do that across the board. Now, obviously, if there's an expense that comes in March, you're going to want to, but doesn't come in the beginning of the year, you're going to kind of want to make sure that you put that in March and not roll it across the beginning of the year. Let's see. So let's see. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen real quick. Let's see. Cancel. All right. All right, can you see my screen, Matt? Okay. All right. All right, cool. Just want to make sure that people could see my screen. All right. All right, so let me go back to where I was at. So ultimately, again, you're going to want to make sure you have all your line items. So I just want to just get some general numbers in here, so bear with me for a second. Let's just say that this was $500. The rent was $30,000. Claim services, you paid for a claims company to handle your claim. They do exist. So, let me just put 250 in here. Truck maintenance. Let me see. We average about, let's just say we average 30,000 for the year. Let's just say, and that's probably a lot. But trucks aren't cheap. So 12. All right, so that's about 2,500 a month. Truck payments. We got 0 truck payments. Office supplies, say 2,500. Just to get this bottom line down pack, make them look like realistic numbers for the most part. Let's see if I can. So let's see. All right. So pretty much now that you have your numbers, and let's just say that we'll change this number to 300. We'll change this number. Uniform to 25 is decent. Accountant services, we'll say 20, like $30. Cleaning crew, say 0 there. I just want to get some reasonable numbers so that our chart look like something versus too much money. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So again, if you have your chart, you can just use your numbers that make sense. But for this exercise here, I'm just making up numbers. PS tracking, let's say 150. Postage, no more than 500. Oh, that's a postage meter. Okay, whatever. 500 again for the postage. And let's see if we got everything. All right, so we kind of have everything. Now, again, if your expenses are consistent, you could then, second, let me see if I can scroll down. All right. So if your expenses are consistent across the board, you can just drag it all the way across. And now you kind of have a layout of what your expenses are for the year. And with that being said, you can expect that, hey, maybe again, these are just figurative numbers, but hey, okay, well, my first month of the year, whether this is a new business or existing business, hopefully this is an existing business, this, but you can expect that the total expenses are going to be $95,000 for the first year. So now, or the current year that you're doing this. So now you can look to see, okay, hey, what can we cut line item by line item, figure out how we can get that 95 down. Oh, well, copier lease. Oh, you know what? We don't need that. Oh, maybe we can get this down to 500. You know, maybe we can go to another company. Oh, well, look at that number. That 95 just dropped down to 93. And you basically are going to comb through your expenses to figure out what can you cut that you don't need. It's like personal budgeting. You want to make sure that you're cutting out all of the fluff so that basically you don't have to be living for debt. And the same thing with your business. So let's see. So now we have the expenses. Now, only thing we are missing is our total office payroll expense. So the total office payroll expense, we want to factor in like our managing partner. So if you don't have any managing partners, okay, don't need to worry about that. But if you did, let's just say that your managing partner was getting paid, or you could change this out for your office salary people too. So let's just say that, okay, well, the office salary people with everything, they make about $21,000 a month. So now it's automatically going to calculate based on whatever your tax number is. It's going to calculate what your payroll taxes should be ideally for that month. So ideally, you probably $23,500. So now we're going to drag this number straight across. Again, we make this very easy. If your expenses are consistent, there's no need to have to constantly repeat this task. And we're going to drag this all the way over. Do I need to drag it into the last column? Interesting. I don't think I do. Let me just bring this down. Reset that. All right. So just yeah, we're gonna do. All right. So basically now you done spent $252,000 on payroll for the year. And with that being said, you spent $30,240 in taxes. So your total payroll expense would be approximately $282,240. So of course, yes, this will add to your bottom line. So now we're looking at about $116,000 in January. So the expenses are going up. Again, that's why we want to make sure we get these expenses right. And we can do this by looking at our P&L statement, or like I said, projecting what some of these costs will be based on whatever costs you're looking to encounter. Cost of goods sold. So the cost of goods sold, ideally, for the movers, we don't know what the movers are going to get paid, but we do know what we want our labor percentage to fall around. So if you wanted your labor percentage to hypothetically fall around 27 to 28% of your payroll, then basically we could just put in a percentage here, and basically however much revenue we get paid, it's going to be 26 to 27% of that amount. So I'll show you how that works. Let me make sure. Okay, I think this one is not connected, so let me see. Paste. Go. All right. So, okay, perfect. All right. So, again, with this being said, Now, you're going to want to know what your average revenue is. We kind of already figured out the majority of our expenses, but now we want to know what our average revenue is. The reason why we didn't do cost of goods sold yet, because cost of goods sold is related to how much we make, how much output we put out is how much workforce we're going to need to handle that workload. So we really can't predict what our cost of goods sold is without the revenue aspect of thinking. So now with that being said, let's just say that our average, what is your average move? So if you looked in your CRM or you looked, yeah, pretty much if you looked at your CRM will tell you what your average cost or move is per month. So let's just say that your average move for your whole sales department was 1,500 on average. So 1,500 on average, we're going to just wipe that across the board. Again, everything is going across the board. We keep this very, very simple. All right. So now we have our average move at 1,500. This does nothing to your bottom line yet. But now we're going to say, well, hey, how many moves are we going to need to average at that average move price to hit our goal for the year? So you could say, well, hey, you know what? We need to average 100 moves a month. Let's be more reasonable for the average company. Let's just say 50 moves a month. So now we know that we're at 75,000 in revenue. But before we can do anything, we have to look at our bottom line. Now, oh, did you notice? So the moving labor actually kicked into place, $19,875. So out of the 75,000, this is where we're going to fall for payroll. So now, let me just make sure I got the taxes there. Perfect. Now we got the taxes. So now we're paying our movers with taxes involved and workers' comp. We're paying $24,247.50. So now when we look at our bottom line, let's just say January. January, we're at total expenses. Total expenses. So let me see. This one is a little weird. So pretty much we're at 85,846.56 in the negative right now. So obviously this wouldn't work. So let's say 100 jobs per month. And I just basically want to offset that bottom line number just to show example. Okay, so we're going to have to raise our average price per move up if we were in this situation. All right, now that gives us 250. I believe we should be in the positive. Nope, darn 13. Let's see. I'm going to just say $3,000. And that's average if you're doing a lot of long distance moving. All right, perfect. So we came out and we're in a surplus $6,775.67. Again, these are just fictitious numbers. So we may not even need to work this hard to get to that point. And now you're going to drag this 100 jobs over to the end, like we've been doing. And now you're going to just say that, okay, well, we have, give me 1 second. We need to complete 1,200 moves for the year at an average move of 3,000 and at an average move of 3,000 for a total of $3,600,000. Now, again, that's if our expenses were absurd like this. So that's typically a general idea of how you would complete the financial forecast. Again, having some numbers to make these numbers a little more easier. So if you could kind of see your numbers on a monthly basis versus doing it from a year standpoint where you have to take averages, then that's going to probably be more ideal. But for the short example of this video, I didn't want to extend it out too long unless people were ready, were here and ready to get engaged. But if you have any questions, let me check the Facebook group. Let's see. All right. So I don't see any more questions at this point, but Matt, did you have any questions or anybody who's in here? Let's see. Oh. Okay, screen's starting to act a little weird. Okay. So now that we have this screen or so, and everybody's was able to do their forecast. All right. Now we're going to switch over to the revenue side of it. So we know that we need to make I think it was 3.6 million, if I'm sure, this example. Now we're going to use our revenue forecast sheet to coincide with this. So this revenue forecast sheet is actually going to show us from a sales standpoint what we need to do to hit what we need to hit. So ideally, what this is going to say is, okay, hey, how much based on your booking percentage. So if you have a high average booking percentage of, let's say, let's say 35 to 45%, 40%. Let's just go with 40% on the high end. Now, with 40% on the high end, and now this is dealing with all types of lead providers. We're talking about Equate Media. We're talking about other third-party lead providers like Moving.com, Movers.com. We're talking about PPC. We're talking about direct mail. So abundance of different marketing leads. So with that being said, the booking percentage typically won't be as high because we know that those leads aren't always that great. So if your booking percentage is still around 40%, that's saying that pretty much you're going to need about 409 leads to hit if your winter months are not as strong as the rest of the year. Now, if your winter months are strong throughout the rest of the year, where you could say, well, hey, January of last year made up about, I don't know, 8% of my revenue for my total revenue. You can always adjust it here and just say, well, hey, maybe March was a slower part of the year, which was awkward. So you can make adjustments. So now you can make more, you can look to make more revenue in the month of January and focus less on your goal for March. So ideally, this is what you're going to want to kind of do. You're going to want to kind of play with the numbers. You're going to kind of want to see what the strength of what January revenue was to your ultimate goal. But if you don't have again, a previous year, because this is maybe your first year doing something like this, then You can use the default numbers, which was, I think, 5 and 7. And again, all these are in the downloads in the group. So if you just use the default and you could say, well, hey, okay, well, hey, we're gonna have 409 leads coming in January, 573 in March. And then as we get closer to the summer months, our lead volume will need to increase. This is your targets for leads. So if you're not getting these amount of leads already, then you need to figure out how to increase your marketing to get this amount. But before you do that, don't forget that, where were we? Oh, so don't forget that your marketing need not to exceed $30,000 for the year, for that month, I mean. So whatever it's going to take you to fit within that 30,000 budget per month, that's essentially where you need to be in order and make sure that you can accomplish this 409. So you don't want to exceed 30,000 to get 409 leads. So see what type of marketing opportunities are out there, see what type of volume that they're going to give you, and then basically be able to determine if they're going to be able to allot your budget. So again, now as the lead volume continues to increase, again, as your revenue increase over the summer, your 10% will not be the same. Your 10% will be 10% of whatever you're expecting to make for that month. So you will have a lot more leverage in the summer months with your marketing to get these type of leads. But your lead volume count should increase in the summer anyway, so you may not have to acquire many more lead sources because your leads, your volume of customers wanting to move in the summer just naturally increases. So again, once you have all of this in place, you know what your revenue targets are for the month. You could tell your sales team, hey, this is our goal for the month. And then basically how many jobs you need to land. So first, let me change this. So we're going to say that this is 3,000. So how many jobs you need to land per month to hit these goals? So right now you only need to land 60 jobs at an average booking of $3,000 and a booking percentage of 40%. So 60 jobs. That equates to, if you're only operating 6 days a week, that equates to almost 3 jobs a day, 15 jobs a week. Now you're able to crunch those numbers down even further to make them seem reasonable. And when you tell somebody, hey, I just need you, we need to focus on booking 3 jobs a day, it seems almost, achievable, or should be achievable, especially if they're working an 8-hour day. And you're saying, well, hey, okay, well, these 3 jobs a day should bring us to the 15 jobs a week. And then what is that? 3 times 12 is 4. Okay, well, that's still 3 times 3 times 4 is 12. So that means if you book 3 jobs for 4 days, you get 12 jobs on the board. So that 5th day, you technically get your 15 jobs. So you still have 1 day to still be looking to hit this target. So you actually have a buffer in there. So again, I know it's a lot, but with knowing what your numbers look like and setting these targets in place, now it becomes way more achievable to hit your goal. And at the end of the year, you would hit your 1,200 goal. Let's go back to our chart. Let's see, does it state? Let's go back up. Oh snap, 1,200 moves. Instead of getting 100 moves every month, you actually broke it down and you got it over a year. based on the strength of your year. So, hey, again, January is not compared same as July. So instead of you getting 100 jobs in January, you just can't, your market just won't allow you to get it. So you say that, hey, 5% of my revenue came from January of my total revenue last year. I only need to book 66 jobs. And I'll make up for those extra 40 jobs over the summer months or somewhere else a year. At the end of the day, however you get to 1,200 is how you get to 1,200. So this is kind of working again with the forecast report, knowing how many leads you need to hit your target, knowing what your booking percentage is, knowing what your average move size is, knowing how many days you operate. If you operate 7 days a week, change it 7 days a week. I just got to do some math here. Okay. And roll this across. Come on. And now, again, you get your numbers, you get where you need to be. And this number is probably going to change. B14 divided by 4. B14 divided by 4. Okay, so this number won't change, but basically what it does is the number of jobs you need per day does go down because now you're operating at more days than the traditional chart. Now, if you was only operating at 6 days, again, you're going to need to acquire more jobs. If you was operating at 5 days a week and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this on a part-time basis. Okay, well, now you need to average 3 jobs for essentially 5 days. So that kind of gives you where you are. And again, that does line up with the 15. And yeah, and the reason why the 15 never changed, again, that's this number divided by 4. So basically breaking this number down to a weekly level. So if, let's see. So anybody got any questions? Okay, well, I do hope that this made sense to individuals. Let me start sharing my screen real quick. Yeah, so I do hope this makes sense to people. I don't want to stretch it out too much longer or so like that, but I hope that you are able to get what I was pretty much saying. Again, use the chart, get your financial analysis done for the year. It does take time, but I can promise you, if you have a picture of where you are going, it makes all the difference. Prime example, even if you have a new business, prime example of some actual numbers. Let me share my screen again. All right. So prime example of some actual numbers or so like that. This was analysis I did. So even if you're starting up a new business, or again, you have an existing business and you've been operating for X period of time, and maybe you started your business late in the year, where you started around July or whatever the case is, you can still create a financial analysis, and you could either do it for 6 months or you could do it for a whole year. So now you make your projections, you get your average expenses out. These are a little more realistic numbers, but you get your average expenses out, and now we can see what's on the bottom line. So, okay, so the total expenses was $42,000. 42,000, 49, 54. And basically, if your revenue does not add up based on your projection, then pretty much you can see right off the rip that you're just going to be drawing negative. And if you're drawing negative, how long do you plan on staying in business? So you would need to change these numbers up. You would say, well, hey, you know what? Either I'm going to have to raise my prices, get a higher average per move, or I'm going to have to book more jobs at a lower average price per move. And, those are the two options in this case. And if you're a new business, there's a high likely chance that you're not going to, be booking 100 jobs right out the gate because people really don't know you. So you might have to raise that up to about, 1,100 or whatever the case is, if that was the case. And that 1,100 may not make a difference in this case, because I think it was pretty high. But it did bring you down, about $2,000. So you're going to either have to, again, cut expenses because there's but so much more you could raise your prices up. And now once you figure that out, you figure out, hey, how many, oh, let me see. Do we got a big expense here? Oh, we got a manager's salary here. Oh, well, this manager got this manager got to go. I'm going to cut this down to 0. So now you cut this manager down to 0 and decide to hire him later. And now just by cutting that 13,000 out, oh boy, we are positive $3,490.14 in the first month of us starting this business. So that's kind of how you're going to manipulate the numbers to work in your favor. And now you can kind of figure out the rest of it by, hey, I don't need to lease a truck. Oh, I shouldn't be leasing a truck in my first 6 months. So let me cut this expense out for the first 6 months. Oops. All right. So now, okay, now we're looking at more reasonable. Let me cut this manager's salary out that I've seen before. For the next, oops, let me go back. Come on. Okay. Cut this out for the next 6 months. And now let's look at our bottom line. Oh, snap. Look at that. We're making money. And that's the whole point. We need to see this on paper in order to feel like, hey, you know what? We know what we're doing. We're budgeting. We know how and what expenses we can afford up front and what expenses we cannot afford up front. And this is where you need to be strategic about your plan of attack. So I do hope that made sense to everyone. If you have any takeaways, definitely put your comments in the Facebook group. Again, I'm Dwight with Max Moving Training. And if you have any questions, definitely leave it in the training group and I'll look to answer your questions. All right, you take care now.